Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boscheman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the forecast for the full moon that's occurring on March 14th, 2025. We're going to look at the forecast for each life path number to see how these energies might affect you. Now, what's important about this illumination is it's also an eclipse. And so this lunar eclipse is actually going to start the evening of the 13th. And will continue through into the early hours of the 14th. The full moon reaches its fullness on the early mornings of the 14th. So kind of looking at both of those dates, depending on where you live in the world. Now, this lunar eclipse, we're already in eclipse season. So at the time of this recording, which is on the 5th of March, we're already heavy into this. We're feeling these energies. And so it's, of course, going to be at its point of culmination on the 14th. Now, eclipses and why these are so important is because a lot of times they can bring in some kind of closure, some kind of ending, and they can initiate the beginning of a new storyline, a new cycle. And a lot of times we won't see what sort of is in store or what this energy is bringing about fully until several months down the road. And so again, where this might be the point of initiation or the point of culmination, depending on the situation, we might not see the full effects of this eclipse until 3 to 6 months down the road, sometimes even beyond that into the next year. So it's a storyline that is continuing to unfold, continuing to open. However, around the point of this illumination and this eclipse, we should have a pretty good idea of what that storyline is going to be. And that's what we'll kind of look at today to see what the point is, the point of your awareness, where that needs to be around this eclipse. Okay, before we get into the forecast for the life path numbers, this is a general forecast. If you would like your own personal numerology reading, I would love to work with you. You can book some time with me. My information is in the description box below. All right, let's take a look. Life path number 4. So we're going to be working with some really interesting energy with this eclipse. So this is a lunar full moon eclipse. And so a lot of times when we have full moon eclipses, it brings something to culmination, it brings something to closure, something needs to be released, some kind of change needs to occur in order for us to move forward. And the energy that we're going to be working with is the vibration of the 12-3. So because we have this 3 energy, it immediately brings in the our creativity, our creative life force, how we express that, what outlet we have for our creativity. Where is it that creativity is stifled? Where is it that our imagination is stifled? Where is it that we're taking things too serious, that we're too rigid in our thoughts? This is an opportunity for us to see where sort of the error of our thoughts or limiting beliefs are standing in our way, are creating some kind of obstacle or barrier that doesn't need to be there. And so this could be an opportunity to see where it is that the stories that we create in our head, or where, like overanalyzing something, or having the blinders on and only seeing it the way we want to see it, whatever it may be, actually impedes our progress. Like it keeps us stuck and actually only creates frustration. So this is a cycle that really has us take a closer look at, what are the obstacles and what obstacles are actually real and what obstacles are sort of a figment of our imagination, meaning that we've convinced ourselves that something is an obstacle when in actuality it's not. So this is a really good time to discover where it is that we're not doing something or we're not taking action on something because we don't feel capable, right? We have self-doubt or we haven't done it before. And so this is an opportunity to see like, okay, just because I haven't done it before doesn't mean I can't do it. just means that there's a learning curve, that I need to have a different perspective. I need to learn how to do it, and then I can do it. So there's really a strong emphasis here on recognizing that sometimes when we're sitting in quicksand is because we put ourselves there, and not because of what's actually happening in the external, or not because of like what life is doing to us. So this is a beautiful, beautiful period for taking the blinders off and really, really diving deeply into our belief systems, our thoughts, the stories that we create about a situation or a person or a relationship, and to see things hopefully from a new vantage point, from a new perspective, because it's that new vantage point or that new perspective that then will give us the tools that we need or the opportunity to see things more clearly and to move forward. So if there's an area of life where you've been feeling really frustrated with, which for fours, everything takes more effort for fours. Everything takes more time. So frustration is sort of the name of the game, and working with that frustration, working through it, not letting it take over. But sometimes we get frustrated about the things that don't turn out the way that we want them to, or the way that we feel like they should. And it's through that, again, only seeing it through our own tunnel vision and then getting frustrated when it doesn't work out that way. That's not actually a barrier. Like, that's not actually something that's keeping us from achieving what we want to achieve. It's just, we've got to take the blinders off. Like, we have to be able to see things more clearly. And the way to do that is to connect with other people, to share ideas, to be open to other ideas, to collaborate, to get another person's viewpoint and listen openly. Because it's through that collaboration and through those conversations that we're able to see things from a different perspective. We just have to be willing to see it and not get stuck in our sort of rigid ways. So what's interesting about this energy, it really does sort of push us inwards to figure out, where it is that we are tripping ourselves up, and taking responsibility for that and approaching it differently. It's kind of like if we're in a dead-end job and we hate that job, but we stay in it because we've committed to it and because we're loyal. That's great. And that's like, we get the little gold star for commitment. But if we actually look at it, we hate it. So what are we doing? We are tripping ourselves up. We are creating this like self-imposed prison because I've invested so many years into this. I've invested so much energy. So I've got to stick with it. Okay, but why? Why are we sticking with it? What's the why? And usually when we can kind of deconstruct that, we'll see that it's ourselves holding ourselves back, right? I'm too old to learn a new skill. There's not any jobs out there, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. We can always find an excuse and justify the excuse for why we keep ourselves stuck in a situation that we don't like or that's getting us frustrated. So this energy with this eclipse is helping us to really see where we're doing that to ourselves and to make the appropriate adjustments to, and there's likely going to be some release in this. There's likely going to be some need for change, not only like a change of view, but, a change in circumstances. And, in some situations, admitting that we're wrong, admitting that we don't know the best way or the right way. And so there's a lot of strength that can be gained and inner strength that'll be needed in this cycle. But it's the journey that this journey will bring us, hopefully, greater momentum and will help us to break through that self-imposed prison that we have likely created for ourselves. This is a time to pause, take a look around, and truly listen. Listen to your inner soul, listen to your intuition, listen to the people around you as well. Listen to other perspectives. This can feel like a pause. It can feel like a moment of silence in your life where things aren't really like happening really quickly, or, we're not getting the next breadcrumb, or we're not seeing the next door open, because it's really a time for us to spend this time in contemplation and review, sort of learning that things are not always the way that they appear, and understanding that sometimes things can actually be ready for us to take action on, can be ready for our success, all those things, but we get in the way. We trip ourselves up. So this is a great cycle for that deeper reflection, and to recognize that if everything that, we want to see happen isn't happening fast enough, or is in disharmony, or whatever it may be, come back to your thoughts. Like, what are your thoughts about this? Like the actual situation, because it could be that we're creating sort of, again, that barrier that doesn't need to be there. Really good time for self-soothing, relaxing, filling your cup up. This is not a time for striving with this energy. This is a time for recognizing where changes need to be made, where things need to be done a little bit differently, what's standing in our way, what's keeping us from that momentum, and tackle that. And a lot of the times it's probably going to be ourselves that are tripping ourselves up, because 4 energy is very committed. It's a very committed, loyal, organized, dedicated type of energy. And usually what ends up tripping the 4 up is exactly that. Like it's its greatest strength, but it can also be its greatest weakness, because once we commit to something, man, good luck getting us off of it. Like, we are going to get to that. We're going to get to that end goal, and we're going to do it really, really well. But sometimes, mid-journey, it's time for a detour. It's time for us to shift gears. And that's part of the art of the 4, and part of this, having this life path, is figuring out when something is no longer for us, even though we've committed and we've put all this energy into it. And it becomes kind of like the lifelong journey of the 4. And the circumstances that we usually find ourselves in are exactly that, where we have to recognize when we've given enough, we've done enough, we've invested enough, and it's no longer for us, and we need to shift gears. And sometimes that means releasing that. And we can get tripped up on, like, oh my gosh, I've spent all this money on this. I've invested so much, all this time. I've committed to this. And then we stay with it, but it's no longer for us. So this cycle of this 12-3 can really help us to get reacquainted with what we do want, what it looks like, what lights us up, what do we want to create? What dream do we want to create for ourselves? And is it different from what it is that we are actually doing? And this can be the reroute or the redirect that can really make a world of difference. But we have to be, of course, open to it. So, yeah, there could be some things that come to a head now that need to be settled. But I would say take your time. Don't be impulsive. Let the cycle work for you. Observe, reflect, meditate if that's something you want to do. Find that serenity that's being offered by this cycle, because it's there. And like I said, this cycle can really open up doors, but it's likely going to require us to realize that, we need to let go of what we can't change and embrace what we can. Very, very, very strong energy here. Yeah. And it's like this energy is just reminding us that true success often comes through acceptance. Again, of like what we can change and what we can't change. So, yeah. If it's time to let something go, truly, then let it go. Because this is an opportunity to move in a direction that's much, much, much more aligned that you'll see success in. So I hope it's a great one. Take care, 4s. Bye for now.